Hi everyone, Aeroplane here, and today I'm going to show you a build guide for my Cast and Crit Ice Nova Inquisitor. So this variant is very similar to the Assassin's variant, where we're using also a Cost Priest, and yeah, just on Crit because Ice Nova, and in our Cost Priest we have Ice Nova and Frostbolt. So just before I go through the gear and the skill tree, I'll just show you guys how the gameplay looks like in a map. So I'm running a Strand map here, and I'm using a Legion Scarab as I'm farming the new Vestir emblematic watchstones. So how it works is just you go into the map, pop the flask, and then you spin it to win it. So you just cast your Cyclone here. When we see the emblem, we just pop it, and then we cast Val Ice Nova. You can see that it moves throughout almost the whole of the Legion, so I just need to find the last bit of stragglers that aren't procced yet. And yeah, here the Legion is procced, and then we just kill the monsters, open the boxes, and get our loot. Yeah, here we got the Val emblem from the new Vestir Watchstone and the skill tree. So this I wanted to build which could farm for me, because what I league start with is Arc Totems, which you can check out my other videos from what I posted before. So I respec my Hierophant from Arc Totems to something. So I wanted to respec into a farming build, and this is the build which I wanted to try out, which I haven't tried before since the change in 3.13 actually, where they added in Battle Mage and all these changes to Inquisitor. So it switched up. So I never got about to trying the Inquisitor variants, and so I wanted to give it a go, and I saw some builds which were quite cool, which is the Cast and Crit Ice Nova, and I decided to have my little take on it. In terms of how it's set up, it's generally the same for all Cast and Crit Ice Nova builds. It's just crit, and then you cast the Ice Nova, and then of course you have all your support gems that go along with it. But yeah, generally this is what I chose. This is what I wanted to try. What I'll say is that at the start, when I followed the general build guide, it was lacking in some ways. Firstly, it didn't quite manage to do what I wanted, which was really good clear. So it was lacking in the AoE department, it was lacking in the speed department, so I needed to ramp those things up to help me farm much faster. And I got it to the state where it is currently right now, which kind of does what I wanted it to do. I would prefer if it had a little bit more AoE, a little bit more speed, but that's what GG nerfed in the 3.14, so we had to kind of figure out ways to get around it. So that was the build showcase. So let's just take a look at what goes into the build. So firstly, we are an Inquisitor, and let's take a look at the nodes on the passive tree. So this is our skill tree, which I'll show you the POB in just a bit, and I'll link it as well in the video description. So Cast on Crit requires us to crit, right? As the name implies. So we needed the crit nodes on the Inquisitor tree. So we went Righteous Providence into Inevitable Judgment, so critical strikes in all monster ally res, which means that we don't really need Elemental Pen, right? Because we just ignore their resistances, and it's just pretty much 0. So all we need to do is just scale pretty much the critical strikes, making sure that our hit chance is close to 100, our crits are close to 100, and then doing our damage based on that. So we go for the crit nodes, and then we go for Sanctuary. Consecrated Ground when you're stationary, and applies 15% increased damage taken to enemies, which is a more multiplier to the enemies taking damage, I think. And this one gives you a lot of survivability and regeneration and sustain that Assassin doesn't really have as much as the Inquisitor variant. So this gives us elemental immunity, which means that we can use more unique flasks. We don't need to go anti-freeze, anti-shock, things like that. So we just need anti-curse and anti-bleed, which we have on the flask over here. So the skill tree, we generally grab the damage and AoE nodes over here, and I use 2 cluster setups, power charges, grabbing them here. Mana reservation for our auras, and then we have Glorious Vanity for Corrupted Soul, And we have the Doriani variant, just make sure it's the Doriani variant. Get some crit, get some life in ES, the second cluster, some crit, some life. So that's pretty much the skill tree. Nothing too crazy, very standard setup, in my opinion. So in terms of the skill build, of course we have the CoC Priest, which I anointed, which I enchanted with the AoE from Harvest. And then inside the CoC Priest we have the Frostbolt and Ice Nova linked to Ice Bite, so that gives us frenzy charges when mapping. So there's going to be 3 frenzies, which gives 12% more damage. Our helmet, we use the famous Blizzard Crown, nothing crazy here. Life and res. Light of Luminary's shield. So this is one of the mechanics of the build, which is like a side mechanic, which is you can see the second last line, 1% increased crit multi per chance to block attack damage. So I defined it to be 10% chance to block, so that's a total of 33% chance to block with the Light of Luminary shield. And we have the Rumi's Flask, which gives us another 20%. So you can see now defenses under block, wherever it is. I'm blind actually. Chance to block attack damage 33%, hit our Rumis we get 53. And the line says 1% crit multi per chance to block, so that's 53% crit multi for free. By using the shield, then the shield gives some nice crit chance and cold damage, which is pretty tasty. Okay. Then we have Astra Mantis. So the new Inquisitor setup is such that every strength and int gives us more crit chance, and that comes from the Righteous Providence node over here. It gives 50 strength, 50 int, and the main line is 1% increased crit chance per point of strength or int, whichever is lower. So as the higher we push our strength and int, the more percentage crit chance we get. So in this case, we can see 465 strength, 491 int, and which means that we get whichever is the lower of the two. In this case, it's 465 strength, so it's 465% increased crit chance. You can see that when we go to our Cyclone over here, we have a 99% chance to hit and a 95% chance to hit evasive, and main hand critical chance is 52.63%. So you can see later on with the power charges, everything in POB, what our crit chance amounts up to. So it's going to be very close to 100% over there, and that's the main aim of the build. So that is that, and that's why we use Astra Mantis, anointing Utmost Might, which is the strength node over here, which gives us enough strength to get as close to our in as possible to get the most percentage increase crit chance. Next is our rings. Firstly is the Circle of Fear Synthesized Sapphire Ring. So this one gives Herald of Ice effects, increased damage. Implicits don't really matter. In this case, I got some strength and some lightning res, damage to Val skills, not very important there. A very nice quality of life. For the explicits, I got cold damage and buff effect, so this is just pure DPS ring. I got for around 8x. The helmet I got at the time for around 1x. The shield was around 1x. The CoC Priest was slightly less than 1x when I got it. The Astra Mantis was, I think it was 50C when I got it. I think now it's around 25 to 30C. Impulsors I got for around 7x. I think now it's around 6 point something. So Impulsors just does damage, right? And Explodey, which helps with the clear quite a bit. What I want to try next is actually Carcass Jack and fully relying on Herald of Ice, but I want to try that out, and I can show you the difference in the setup later on. Next is the Agony Nail 2-stone ring. So this is a rare shaper ring, which does Assassin's Mark on hit, some resistances, which we are very starved for because we are having so many uniques. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 uniques. So we're kind of left with 1 helmet, 1 ring, and 1 shoe to make up for all the resistances. And there's a lot of things that we want with these items as well. So the helmet is like full res, 3 lines of resistances. The ring, we need Assassin's Mark on hit, and we need resistances. So those are the 2 priorities. And then for the boots, I wanted elusive because I felt like I was too slow, and I wanted that the additional speed. So I got a 35% MS, a single line of res, and a tier 1 lightning res, and elusive, and then crafted out 1 more resistance line, and we are sort of capped here like this. We need to balance it a bit better, and maybe we can free up to get a little bit more chaos res, but yeah, that's for in the future. For the gloves, we got a Shaper's Touch, which gives us, as we are stacking stats, Shaper's Touch is a very good glove to give us a lot of HP, ES, and yes, pretty much what we get, most of it. HP, ES, and a bit of mana, accuracy as well, accuracy, which is huge for our build. So taking it out, you can see we lose quite a lot of 400 ES and 100 HP, something like that. And we got the corrupted version of the Shaper's Touch Gloves, which gives +1 socketed gems, which I socketed my auras inside, so very nice there. We got a Headhunter for clear, so this, of course, when I always farm, I want to get the Headhunter first, then I transition to my farming build for my League Start build. For my Flask, I have Azir's Promise for damage, Cinder Swallow for damage and clear and sustain, Alchemist Quicksilver for adrenaline for speed, Diamond Flask, which gives us a bit higher crit chance for Herald of Ice, you'll see later in the POB, Rumis for block, as you saw from Light of Lunaris, so we're using this as well, and a huge amount of survivability maps. As for our gems, went through earlier, the Cast Priest uses Ice Nova Frostbolt linked to Ice Bite. The helmet has a nice left click setup, so in most of the builds these days you want to have something on left click, either Enduring Cry with Call to Arms, or something like Still Skin, things like that. And in our build we're using Vortex, which pretty much has 100% uptime when we're cycloning. So what I do is just left click, hold on my left click and right click my cyclone, and the Ice Nova will just come out. Sorry, the Vortex will come out whenever it's up. What it's linked to is Bone Chill for additional chill effect, Arcane Surge, so we have 100% uptime. I put it on level 6, I think should be correct. And a Culling Strike, which means that every few seconds, every 1.67 seconds, we call anything below 10% HP, including bosses. So when we are cycloning and critting, it pretty much just procs when he's less than 10% HP. So that's the hit helmet setup. For my shield, I go Smoke Mine, Flame Dash, linked to Second Wind, so it's just my mobility skill, which I feel is very fast, very strong. And I think builds these days should utilize Smoke Mine, which most people don't do. And I think it's a mandatory skill to use, especially with just a single gem. You get blind, additional move speed, and a huge amount of benefits from using Smoke Mine. For the body setup, it's Impulsors. You can use either a crit chest, Carcass Jack, anything pretty much. Just a rare chest is fine as well. It's a 6 link here that we need, so it's a Cyclone. I think 2120 gives additional AoE for Cyclone. Awaken added cold damage for +1 cold and flat cold. Awaken cast on crits mandatory. I would say that if you want good enough damage, you need to have at least a level 3 cast on crit for the breakpoint. And then we have Inspiration, more elemental damage, more crit, Hypothermia, a more cold damage multiplier with hits and elements on the last line, and of course the Ice Nova. I used a level 21 Ice Nova in this case. Yeah, so that's pretty much the build. You can see the Ice Nova gets a +1 from the level 5 added cold. For the gloves, we have our auras, Herald of Ice, Hatred inside this glove with a +1, and on top of that we put a level 4 Enlighten, which gets +1 as well, and a Awaken AoE, which gives more AoE, and he gets benefit from the +1, so that's really huge. Headhunter for farming, and then for the boots, we just have a cast and damage taken setup with Immortal Call, some reduced elemental and physical damage, and a precision aura. The last one I'm just leveling a spare gem, which is not used. You can put anything you want in there, and the precision is tops up our auras to make sure that we're currently reserving quite a huge percentage. And I wanted to leave slightly more than 100 mana because I felt like sometimes when you do a minus mana regen map, I won't run no regen, but it could go up to like 60%, and then it gets buffed by Awakening level, and it gets really high, like 80% reduced mana regen. Having less than 100 mana sometimes get a bit spicy, and you suddenly stop cycloning sometimes, and it gets very irritating. So I just make sure that I have over 100 mana. So precision tops it up, and in the original build guide, I think he recommended he didn't have Awaken AoE, and then he ran Flesh and Stone, which reserved 35% in the new patch. And on top of that, Vitality as well, something like level 15 Vitality for additional health regen, and that's a very good bossing setup in my opinion, but not as good for map clear, and the objective of this build is for clearing, so I built it and changed it up so that it can clear a bit better. Yeah, so in terms of the passive tree, we got Unnatural Instinct on the left, which scripts all these nodes, adds so many things here. You can see a lot of ES, a lot of life, strength and int, so that's a huge benefit as well, and very good placement for that. Over here we just get a double multi jewel. You can get triple or quad multi, that's great. Over here we have Frozen Trill with Copen, which doesn't really help us, and so this when we are cycloning, it shoots out two additional Frostbolts. And we got a Watcher's Eye for Hatred crit, so this is very important for our Herald Vice to crit, because Heralds don't have a base crit chance, and getting this will give us more crit chance for our Herald Vice, and of course for everything else as well. For when you're cycloning, it benefits from the crit chance for the spells, for the attacks and everything, so it's very good. For the cluster, we have Storm Rider, which gives us power charge on when you shock a chilled enemy, which is 100% of the time, because we have Cold Conduction, which chilled where enemies chilled by your hits are shocked. And so, yep, we're always shocked and chilled, and we get additional cold damage and power charges. And that's of course on top of the Assassin's Mark on hit, which you only get power charges when you kill. So this helps us get power charges when we are on single target. For our large cluster, we have two of them. First one gives us our clear and our freeze. So we got widespread destruction for AoE elemental damage. Cold to the core, which is as you're stacking a lot of stats, this is very useful, adding a lot of cold damage. And blast freeze, which is quite OP. Freezes you inflict spread to other enemies in a radius of 12, so that's really sick. And then everything else is me trying to scale AoE. So what do we have? We have AoE cluster, which has magnifier, 10% AoE. So these three jewels have the same thing: magnifier, vast power, three of them. Magnifier gives 10% AoE, so that's 30%, and then 30% multi. Then we have vast power, area damage, and this was nerfed from 5 to 3%, and is now capped at 50. We have 5 power charges in the build, which means that having 3 of that, which means that for one cluster it gives us 15% AoE, so 3 clusters gives us 45%, and we don't cap out here. But it gives us that 45% AoE plus 30% from magnifier, so that's a huge amount. I have a corrupting blood jewel, so I don't need anti-bleed on my tree. This gives life and multi, nothing too interesting there. This gives double multi, vast power magnifier, and then I threw in a towering threat inside here as well to give 10% more AoE and life. So those are the jewels, which gives us enough AoE. So next up is pretty much the POB, right? Over here. So what are we doing? So the most important one is firstly, you want to make sure that your cyclone has an enough chance to hit. In this case, it is a 99% chance to hit. I dropped my accuracy on my helmet, so I went from 100 to 99 because I needed resistances as I was balancing. But ideally you want 100% over here. I would reckon that the 1% didn't matter as much for me, so didn't really care. For this damage, it doesn't really matter. Most of it is cold damage, I think. If you go into calcs, you can see that most of the damage is cold, so you can run Fizz Reflect, so that's fine. So in this case, Cyclone AoE is 17, 10 stages we get 27, it's kind of nice AoE for the Cyclone. Next is the Ice Nova, which is our main damage dealing skill, and this is the DPS that we are looking at. So we can see the total DPS is 2.8 mil, which is really good. And I was saying earlier, the gems, the minimum breakpoint is level 3 Awaken Cast and Crit. So you can see here, level 3 Awaken Cast and Crit. If we have level 1, it's 1.8, level 2 is 1.8, level 3 is the breakpoint where it moves with enough cooldown reduction for it to proc more Ice Novas within the attack speed interval. You can see on the build that we didn't really stack any cooldown reduction because we're running Hit Hunter. So in my opinion, I feel like it doesn't really matter, and you have enough damage to clear everything anyway. So the main objective here is to stack enough AoE for my build and get enough move speed. Yeah, so that is the AoE for the damage for the Ice Nova, sorry. And we have a huge amount of AoE 49 as compared to the original build. Next is the Herald Vice. So this is our main method of clear. Herald Vice has an AoE radius of 21, the original build had 17. How we scale AoE is through all those clusters and the AoE nodes over here. So I needed enough AoE to feel good. So one way to increase your clear would be to switch to a Carcass Jack, and you can see the AoE goes to 22, and we can drop one AoE node, or you can drop the Towering Threat, whichever you want. and that's another method that I'm looking to try next, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. But right now I'm using Impulsor for more damage and possibly increased clear. I'm just worried that when I'm running Carcass Jack, that when we proc the legions, you can't actually kill the rares, because we don't have the explode that comes with the Herald Vice, and that might not be enough damage. So yeah, we'll have to try to find out. Yeah, so that's Herald Vice linked with Awakened AoE. If we don't have that, we have 19 AoE, so I think this is quite good here. Movement speed skills, and then we have the Val Ice Nova linked with Ice Bite, and that is the one that we're using within our Kosh Priest that procs the Legion, and you don't need a Val Ice Nova within your main setup. Yeah, so I use that with the it's just the one in the Kosh Priest. Next we have our auras, casting damage taken, nothing too interesting, and Assassin's Mark on hit, which is very good for single target, for clear, and yeah, that's what we use to have without needing to like stop and curse anything, without needing to sacrifice our gemlings for Hex Touch on hit. We just use the Assassin's Mark on hit ring, which is very useful without needing too much micromanagement. So that is the build, that is how it's played. Let me know what you guys think and how you guys build it differently, but yeah, that's me. And feel free to subscribe to my YouTube if you like the videos, and you get notified if when I upload new videos in the future. What I'm gonna look at next is I think we had some demand for writing guides, a leveling guide for Templar, and there aren't many guides out there when I checked, and how I level and how I practice, so I think that's a very useful video, and catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.